Here we go.
Hello guys, I'm Combo Movie Film Productions, and welcome back to DC Film Retrospective. Today's film is a sequel reboot to Christopher Reeve's Superman series, 20 years after Superman 4 ended with Superman Returns. After Superman 4 killed the series basically, the next 20 years for the Man of Steel in film had failed projects and more failed projects. From Superman 5 with Reeve falling through, Superman Lives, a Batman vs Superman film, Superman Flyby, a reboot that would have had McGee direct, J.J. Abrams writing the script, Justin Timberlake as Superman, and Robert Downey Jr. as Lex Luthor, but Warner Bros. Didn't like the script and the project got cancelled. And other projects got canned until Bryan Singer, while filming X2, had a talk with Richard Donner and his wife Lauren Schuler Donner, who she had produced all the X-Men films, explaining the connection. Singer pitched the idea of it being a sequel to his first two films, ignore Superman 3 and 4 completely, and it would be about Superman leaving Earth for 5 years and returning. They liked the idea, and Donner blessed Singer and Warner Bros. For directing the film, and they hired him in The Rise of X2 in July 2004, causing him to leave X-Men The Last Stand, along with James Marsden leaving X3 for the film. They had many actors to choose for the Man of Steel himself, and got Brandon Routh and most of the cast signing on without being awarded the script. The film was made and released in theaters in June 2006, where it received positive reviews at first, but later would receive backlash from audiences, and the film underperformed for its massive budget. A sequel was in development for its summer 2009 release, but was later cancelled and 7 years later got a reboot. But Brandon Routh is playing another version of Superman in the upcoming CW crossover Crisis on Infinite Earths, despite he already has a role in Legends of Tomorrow. But anyways, with the history out of the way, let's get into the plot. The film, I think, is set in 1985 or 2006, whatever timeline you prefer, but what matters is it's set after Superman 2, where Superman, now played by Brandon Routh, has left Earth for 5 years and exploring Krypton to see if anybody from his race is still alive after Zod and his buddies arrived on Earth. Also, due to astronomers discovering readings of the planet, he didn't find anything but a graveyard basically, as the film opens up with him crash landing on Earth once again, at his mother's farm, as he quickly throws himself back into society as Clark Kent. He's a lot more dour due to him finding out about Lois, now played by Kate Bosworth, has moved on from Superman in between his 5-year absence, having a kid Jason, and engaged to a pilot who works at the Daily Planet with Lois, Richard White, played by James Marsden. He finds this when he is rehired at Daily Planet by Perry White, now played by Frank Langella. Lois is happy to see Clark back, but is annoyed that he left for 5 years without saying goodbye, and he's even more mad at Superman, even getting a Pulitzer Prize for writing a story on why the world doesn't need Superman anymore. While drinking in a bar with Jimmy Olsen, now played by Sam Huntington, he sees on TV that a plane carrying Lois during a space shuttle launch is in danger due to a massive power outage due to Lex Luthor, now played by the infamous Kevin Spacey, and his goons are scheming a new plot. Basically, Lex returned to the Fortress of Solitude to get more crystals, so he can form a new continent made from those crystals that will flood other continents, killing billions as he makes his own island and makes him rich. While testing a sample at his underground base, the reaction is bigger than expected and causes a massive power surge, meaning all technology in the world shuts off for a minute, as cars crash into each other on the streets, everybody's phones go out, and the plane Lois is on loses its power. This motivates Superman to jump back into action as he saves Lois and all the other passengers on the plane as the world has reintroduced Superman after a 5-year break. He then starts to solve crime as much as he can, as well as trying to get with Lois, even trying to do the same magic he did in the previous films, but it doesn't work on her. He also tries to hang out with her more as Clark Kent, discovering about the power outage, but it comes up empty until he believes Lex is involved. One night, while Lois is tracking down a sword connected to the power outage, she and Jason stumble upon Lex's yacht and gets kidnapped. Along the way, it's revealed that Jason, despite his asthma and other issues, has powers as swing a piano on one of Lex's goons when she tries to kill Lois, revealing he's Superman's son. Lois faxes her coordinates to the Daily Planet, leading Richard to go get them. Meanwhile, Lex created his island that causes a massive earthquake in Metropolis, as Superman saves everybody in Metropolis in various different ways as the island is created. Superman saves Lois, Richard, and Jason while arriving at the island and gets them onto Richard's plane, to safety as they fly away. Superman arises on his island, preparing to beat him, but Lex lays the island with kryptonite so Superman can grow weak as his goons beat the piss out of him, topping off with Lex shaking Superman with some kryptonite as he falls into the ocean. Lois convinces Richard to fly back and save Superman, despite they have a kid that's vulnerable to kryptonite, but anyways, they manage to pull some of the kryptonite out as they pull him out of the ocean, giving Superman enough strength to lift the island to space and throw it far away from Earth as he passes out and falls unconscious in Metropolis. As Lex and his sidekick Kitty, now played by Parker Posey, after leaving the island after Superman lifted it into orbit, causing his goods to be killed along the way, get trapped on a small island with no resources as Superman is hospitalized and no one knows what to do. Lois goes out to kiss Superman, hoping he will wake up like Sleeping Beauty, but nothing happens until after she leaves and wakes up. He sneaks into Jason's room knowing that Jason is his offspring, giving some inspirational dialogue from Jor-El as he sleeps, and then flies into space and looks at the camera just like Reeve did as credits roll. To start with, the visuals in this movie are great and many still hold up today. From Superman's eye hitting the bullet, Superman lifting Lex's Island, or the plane sequence, it all holds up very well. The film does decently replicate Donner's first two Superman films and bringing back John Williams' score. The film structuring itself like those first two films in terms of plot beats, keeping it in the same universe. It does try to honor Richard Donner and Christopher Reeve's Superman era, and I can respect that to a certain extent. The action, when it does happen, is pretty exciting and fun to see Superman do things that he couldn't do in the 70s and 80s. And the film has fine acting all around. No one here is exceptionally bad, pretty much everyone plays their part and that's about it. Brandon Routh channels Christopher Reeve somewhat well on parts, and the rest of the cast is like that. The only exception here is Kevin Spacey as Lex Luthor, which I don't like him as much as the next person, but you gotta admit he was a pretty good Lex Luthor, and did do his own thing with his character while also paying homage to Gene Hackman. It's not the best Superman film, but it's not the worst either. This film is boring. If I could describe this movie in one word, it's tedious. The movie is 2.5 hours long, and I'm somebody who doesn't have a short attention span, but this movie drags so much and loads of stuff could have been easily cut out for what is a pretty simple story that knocks out the first two films, which is my biggest problem with this film. The movie tries so hard to recapture that spirit of Donner and Reeve's Superman films that it forgets to be its own thing. It doesn't stand amongst the superhero genre. It's just one of those films that I barely hear anybody talk about. The only reason it's getting buzz now is because of the CW crossover event. Nothing about this film is memorable apart from the action sequences, and there isn't even much action in it. It's not painful to sit through like some of the other films I talked about in this retrospective so far, but it's quite a snoozer. For such a long film, the film barely explores a lot of things that it sets up. Mainly about how Superman has left and his dilemma of being a savior, living up to his name, having a son he didn't know that he abandoned, and little plotlines like that. The scenes like Lois and Superman talking about his absence and some scenes of characters just talking are the best scenes of the film. But it's so dour and focuses on the wrong things, like muting out so many colors, making it look like Chris Nolan took a break from filming Batman Begins and The Dark Knight to stop by and change the color palette. The main reason why I'm not invested in this film's universe is that they try so hard to recreate the same characters from decades ago, with new actors that just can't pull it off. Kate Bosworth has no Margaret Kidder, and Brandon Routh has no Christopher Reeve. The chemistry just isn't that investing, along with Lois already having a nice guy in James Marsden's character. That it doesn't give you a reason to side with Superman in this film, along with how creepy he is for most of the film with stalking Lois and staying after hours to work with her. It makes sense with a creepy Bryan Singer as the director, but still, this is not Donner's Superman. I'm not trying to be a whiny fanboy, I'm criticizing what they were trying to do, and it was a mistake for continuing the series. I'll give it credit, it's better than Superman 3, 4, and Supergirl, but that's still a low bar to cross. All the inconsistencies with Superman's powers, and the acting not being the same could have all been cleared if this was just a straight reboot. But it's not, and that's the problem. Also, as a side note, for a film that should be set in the mid-80s, being set 5 years after Superman 2, why does it have 2006 technology like modern cars, many TVs on the wall, flip phones, and other examples like it? It was very distracting because it felt so lazy. Another issue that would have been cleared if this was a reboot. This has so much potential and they just kinda dropped the ball. Overall, Superman Returns is a mixed bag. It has some great effects, decent acting, some good homages to Donner's Superman films, has some good character moments and fun action, and is a better note to leave the series than Quest for Peace did, but it's so focused on tributing to those films from it being a direct sequel to those films way before that became popular. Having the same score, trying to have the same atmosphere and plot beats, it gives so much energy to somebody else's work that ends up not being his own thing and feels so empty and a knockoff. Along with it having an unfocused and simple plot that's way too long for a runtime longer than Infinity Wars, not being that memorable, being inconsistent from the modern tech to Superman's powers, the film not investing into the characters or plot lines, the tone being all over the place, the writing and directing not being strong, it just all meshes into being mediocre. Not terrible, not great, just simply in the middle. I give Superman Returns a C, a 5.5 out of 10, and I don't know, it depends on your taste recommendation. So that's Superman Returns. What do you guys think about it? Leave your thoughts in the comments and please make sure to like and subscribe more content. I'm Combo Movie Fan Productions, and this isn't the last DC film to review because justice needs to be served.